Hi, this is Roger Smith, and today my guest is Dr. Carey Wallace. So, before I even introduce my guest, here's my bio. Dr. Carey Wallace is the Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund in Jamaica, a position he has held since March 1st, 2017. He's responsible for directing and managing the agency to promote growth and development in Jamaica's tourism sector. Dr. Wallace has an extensive background in tourism spanning over 25 years. His educational achievements include a PhD in social psychology from Cardiff University in Wales, an MBA in finance from Cornell University in New York, a BSc in computer science from the University of the West Indies. So, without further ado, I have to introduce my guest, Carey.
How you doing, Roger? Great to see
Good,
you. Great to be here.
good. How did Perplexity.ai sum you up, sir?
Well, you tell me. You said you checked it out.
Yeah, but I wanted to know: did you want to be like that guy, or are you that guy, or is that guy nothing compared to who you are?
Well, I think in general, I'm blessed. I'm grateful of how blessed I am to have been afforded the opportunities that I've had here in Jamaica and to study abroad. And I think, to whom much is given, much is expected. And being born in a country like Jamaica that has enormous potential and not having achieved that potential for our people as of yet, I dedicated my life to that transformation of Jamaica's potential, to giving our people the quality of life that they deserve for being in this blessed country of ours.
Cool. So I hear a lot about positive mindset from you and upliftment. And I've got some questions I've got to ask you on those topics. And obviously, with your vast educational knowledge, you're going to be able to help someone like me and point me in the right direction to the answers of the questions I've got. So the first one is, how can Jamaica leverage its tourism industry to foster a more positive national mindset and drive socio-economic upliftment?
Well, tourism is really sharing our experiences that you have here in Jamaica with visitors coming from overseas. So people would travel to come here and pretty much live in Jamaica for a week or 2 weeks and to eat our food, to stay stay in Jamaica, whether it's in hotels or in Airbnbs or villas. Our food and drink our rum and smoke our herbs and
Nice.
and do all the fancy the things that we have here that we grew up with, so we cannot take for granted. But to them, it's value. It's the kind of value that they're willing to pay thousands of dollars to reserve and pay to buy the ticket and get on a plane and come over, and they do it year after year after year after year after year. So we happen to be blessed with paradise, sunshine year round, and so on. I understand you're having a snow in Texas, but that is a cold front across the U.S. But and there's value in being here in warm Jamaica and so on, and so people are willing to prepare to pay to come and have that experience. Now, that experience that they want is one where it is wholesome, it is clean, it is fun, it is full of vibes, it's good food, well organized, efficient, and so on. And so, therefore, if an industry that can make us money rewards those kind of behaviors, cleanliness, being honorable, meaning and dependable, being hospitable, being pro-social, then you can see where in a country like Jamaica, where money is a huge motivator, and an industry where you make more money when you are more hospitable and have more pro-social behaviors, you can see where it can incentivize that behavior. A couple of years ago, there was a story of tavern near Papi that had a high crime rate there, and but they recognized that there was a proximity to UTech and UWI and so on, and so somebody came up with the idea of renting out their extra space to students and started making money from it. And a couple of the neighbors in tavern started doing it. And the first time one of the students was robbed, it wasn't the police that came in and intervened. It was the neighbors that went in and caught the fellow and rough him up and made him apologize and give back the girl the purse. And since then, it's been one of the safest parts of that area, because everybody loses now when there's antisocial behavior allowed to prevail. And so now when tourism appeared to be an enclave industry, a couple wealthy people on the North Coast and wealthy foreigners and so on are the ones making money from tourism. But today, when we have technology providing a democratization of tourism, 31% of our arrivals in 2023 stayed in non-hotel accommodations, Airbnbs and so on. So it's provides spreading the wealth from that tourism industry into anywhere that is strong with that kind of pro-social behavior, strong with that peace, strong with that vibe, strong with that energy, strong with the events. And luckily, Jamaica is blessed with tourism assets right across the length and breadth of Jamaica. If you drop a visitor anywhere in Jamaica, randomly, you can find within a 5-mile radius a river, a waterfall, a mountain, a blue hole, a mineral spring. You can find enough of value that would make that visitor enjoy their stay and want to come back again. So the opportunity for tourism to transform our socioeconomic situation here in Jamaica, especially with the technology that's now available, is phenomenal. I mean, the model that Airbnb has, for instance, or Uber and these what they call sharing industries, is where the guest rates the host after each stay. And so if you keep getting 5-star reviews, you climb to the top of the ladder, getting more and more bookings and making more money. And how do you get these 5-star reviews? It's when you're most pro-social, most hospitable, most fun, most clean, most uplifting, most organized, and all these kind of pro-social virtues. So that's how I see tourism having a massive positive impact on a country like Jamaica that has been stifled for the most part because of the antisocial behaviors that have been a part of our culture as we know it.
Hey, so let me just throw in a little red herring here. So with all these hotels these very large hotels in the Montego Bay area, Negril, why is it that right beside these large structures, why does it seem as though the local community isn't rising with it? Meaning you don't see a nicer looking bar or a nicer Jamaican structure as you drive towards these nice palatial all-inclusive hotels. Why isn't the locals not being brought up with it?
Right, I think that's coming. I mean, if every time I drive across Montego Bay now and past Iberia Star and so on, and look over on the opposite side up there, I see a whole lot of new development going on, and I see it happening in Orange Bay and those areas, Green Island. I see it happening in Drax Hall. Massive development is going on all over the place. A lot of it is more recent, thanks to one, a more stable economy, of course, but two, the fact that there are more people now staying in the ratio of persons staying in non-hotels have a better balance than before, because if they stay in an all-inclusive, then that visitor can have a great experience staying in that all-inclusive for the 5, 6, 7 days that they're here. They have 3 or 4 restaurants inside. They have entertainment every day. They have a wide variety of water sports. Yeah, they can have a fantastic time just staying there. But when you're staying in an Airbnb, the moment you wake up in the morning, you have to start patronizing something on the outside. You have the first breakfast, you have to go outside and buy it from somewhere else. The first, and so it's a community that's lifted by it. I remember the glory days of Negril in the 80s, when it was like that. You didn't have any all-inclusives, and boy, you had tourism entrepreneurship all over the strip. Rent a bikes, rent a cars, you had dive shops, you had photo studios, you had restaurants, of course, and so on. And so we went through a period where that dried up quite a bit because the all-inclusive model just kind of replaced it and so on. But now we're seeing a resurgence of the type of EP traveler that is breathing life back into these main streets and providing tremendous opportunity. I mean, when you think of events, for instance, like Freedom Street, the Berry Street Carnival in Jamaica, the Dream Weekends, and so on, there are over 60% visitors, who come out for these events and so on, and the majority of them are staying in non-hotel accommodation because
I wonder what that
that has
ratio
provided
is.
stock for them.
I wonder what that ratio
I,
is between Jamaicans and actual foreigners.
well, we count them as if the flights originate from overseas, we count them as visitors to Jamaica, and with no shame with that, because we have to start looking at the diaspora in a different light than we used to, 10, 20 years ago, because now there's so many more. Two, so many of them have climbed the social ladder, socioeconomic ladder in those countries as well, and can afford to fly out to go to a concert and then go to Lime Key the next day and have a beach picnic and then, go to a river. And then, it's a fantastic life experience for them too. And it helps our tourism, um, our tourism offerings and our tourism industry. So I don't want to just say, oh, just because they have a grandmother that's a Jamaican, that they're not going to count them or not going to consider them an integral part of our industry to earn income for the people who are here. And it's a great opportunity for us because they have that link to Jamaica, and that they have that connection to Jamaica, and they have that recollection of the authenticity and the purity and the natural foods and so on. You bite into a guava in Jamaica when you're a child living off in guava season. That's pretty much your lunch and sometimes your breakfast and dinner for months on end, right? Or June plum or mango.
Yep.
And then you migrate and you can go 10, 15, 20 years without without having that experience again.
Yep.
So of course, there's tremendous value when you come back and can pick a guava and that will fit down again. It's overdue. So, they have fancy terms for it in developed countries. They call it organic and so on, whereas we
Natural.
it was just natural to us.
Yeah. Hey, what role do you believe positive affirmation and reframing challenges play in overcoming obstacles faced by Jamaicans, both individually and as a nation?
Well, I think in general, and I'll go into a little bit of psychology here now. So,
hey, and I wish you would, because you've been singing this Sankey, and I really always wanted to hear you, verbalize it. Yes, sir.
All right, so let me explain. So you experience each moment. You live life in moments. So right now we're in a moment, and in a little bit it's gonna pass for the next moment, and moments create seconds create minutes, minutes create hours create days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months turn into years turn into your life.
Move to your right a little bit, Carey. Move to your right a little bit. Yep.
So when you look at your life like that, then you see, okay, it's a cluster of moments, and what are you doing in every moment? And you would then say, okay, how do you experience a moment? You experience a moment through your 5 senses, what you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, right? as well as what you're imagining. So you have these 6 inputs to how you are going to experience that moment. And most persons, it's in the imaginings, that moment is spent in their head, in the imagining, whether it's thinking about something in the past or worrying about something in the future. A lot of times it's not being present in that moment. And then the next moment, they may think they're getting to the future, but that future is only experienced in the present when it comes in that present moment. So long story short then is that your life experience is all about what you do in each moment. What is the habit that you have in your moments? What are you choosing to spend that precious time on, that precious instance of your life on? Are you going to focus on something you fear, what Trump is saying, or what, look on CNN and see somebody having some problem all the way in Kazakhstan, not going to change the price of rice in where you live, not going to impact you at all. But if you consume that instance with those thoughts and those kind of things, it's a grand waste, really. I mean, you can just look in chat groups nowadays and you see the persons who wake up every morning and they search for what's going wrong in their world, in their environment, and they post it, and then somebody else comment on it, and then they spend the whole damn day talking about it, and then tired and go to bed, and the next morning they wake up is the next thing, and so you're almost watching lives being wasted away. And so if you, in the meantime, you sit on potential, sit on opportunity, especially in this case here in Jamaica, with resources that if you rally together and you align and you organize, you can have a fantastic life experience of transforming a nation like Jamaica into a developed country and create a great quality of life for our people. So I recognize that the way to transform Jamaica is for the people of Jamaica to recognize their role in this transformation, to recognize that who is going to convert Jamaica into a developed country. We're going to rely on foreigners coming out to do it. Would we go into anybody else's country and convert, make it become first world and then come back home? No. Is it our grandparents, our parents? No, them kind of too old. Is it our children, them too young? The onus on us to make the impact, to take what we have with this country and convert it into a developed nation, what we want, that we believe we deserve as a people, and the one that I have confidence that we can convert, is left up to us. The persons we are looking for to make this transformation is us. So if we spend less time and less of our instances on the nonsense and more time on the solutions, then I believe we can get there much faster.
Okay, good answer. Given your experience in psycholinguistics, how can we effectively communicate the need for change to inspire action amongst Jamaicans from all walk of life? How do we implement a lot of what you say?
Right. So psycholinguistics is really just the way that we understand that humans are emotional creatures as well as logical creatures, but for the majority of their choices and decisions and so on, the majority of them are made based on emotions, and it's the minority that's made based on logic and reason. In fact, the ratio is 5-1. For every 5 times, for every 6 times you make a decision, 5 of the times is based on emotions, and 1 is based on logic and reason. That's what the research shows. So what that means is that and we recognize that in order to build this country and develop this country, it requires us working in tandem, working together, working in harmony, working in alignment, right? If we're busy fighting each other, one in an orange shirt, one in a green shirt, and tearing down each other, we'll get nowhere. If we coordinate, collaborate, and build, we'll get there much faster. Just think of, I mean, what is a developed nation? It sounds a little abstract, but what is a developed nation? That's where you have highways and, you have hospitals that are well equipped and have the capacity to accommodate all the needs of the nation. You have, police, well-equipped police. You have well-equipped transportation systems. You have good institutions, conveniences. You have industries, jobs. It's all structures, operations, programs, systems that have to be built by humans collaborating, right? So recognizing therefore that the better we are as a nation in terms of our cooperation and our collaboration, is the better we'll be able to build all that we're describing here to make a developed country. And the worse we are, the more we are have a propensity to fight each other and tear down each other, is the slower we will progress towards this stream. Then you see the value of, even if you're not right, there's more value in collaborating with your brother than being right and falling out with your brother. Is it the point I'm making? So in that sense, psycholinguistics is a way now where you use your the linguistics part of it is communication part of it. The psycho part of it is you understanding the emotional responses in the person you're communicating with, based on how you are communicating. And communicating is a lot more than your words. It's your body language. It's your pitch, tone. It's your and in psycholinguistics we even consider the many other factors. The choice of words that you use to describe what you're trying to say. Meaning, there are many different ways you can say what you want to say. Some are cold and harsher and so on. Some are warmer. And with understanding psycholinguistics, you have a repertoire of options, and so you choose the warmest one so that you don't trigger a negative emotional response in the person, knowing that 5-1, they will make their response based on the emotion versus the logic. So it's pretty much, I must look at you as I'm talking to you, Roger, and I must see more of an emotional being than a rational being. And I must understand that if I say to you something negative, that you are think about it. When they look on the an fMRI scanner at the human brain, and when they prick somebody with a needle, right, they can detect what part of the brain is triggered, which part of the brain lights up, so to speak. And what they found is that when a person is insulted, it's the same part of the brain that's triggered. So imagine you and I have something to build now, and I give you an insult. That's like me having a needle in your shoulder, and then asking you about, I don't know, drawing plans or dimensions or those kind of things, while I have a pin in your shoulder.
Right.
And so when I do it that way, you kind of get the understanding that, listen, recognizing the emotions in persons, you have to also recognize the words that you are using so that you are not pinpricking persons. And then you can't understand, but I give the man the logic, I give the man the reason, and the man still go with somebody else. And the other person, all him do is have a sweet mouth, and all him do is they call him charming. You know what I mean?
So is this something you think we should teach in schools from a young age? Or just naturally when we start communicating with each other, just always think in the back of our head, the words that come out of our mouths, what impact
Yes,
do they have?
I think we should have. Yeah, I mean, as you outlined earlier, my first degree is computer science, then I did a master's in business administration, and it was later on that I did a PhD in social psychology. And when I did that psychology, I said to myself, that psychology should be taught in schools from the developmental stage, from kindergarten. Because if you understand the way the brain works, and most of us just take it for granted. In our developmental years, our parents were looking after us and feeding us and clothing us and loving us. So we just trusted everything they said. And then we just grew up into adults thinking the way of the world is based on those programs that your parents taught us.
Right.
And where did their parents get those programs? From their parents. And where did their parents get it from their parents? And so we as adults now busy. We have something called confirmation bias, where how we end up being as an adult and how we see the world. The rest of our lives are spent trying to force everything in our reality into that box to make it make sense. So we hit out against anything that opposes it, and we embrace anything that supports it. And life is so dynamic that you can always find.
You know, it's fun. It's funny you say that. I have this knack where in my mind is, no matter what I've taught, I want to challenge everything. I want to put everything on its head. And I honestly, I have a girlfriend. She keeps on telling me that she talks to the Lord, and Roger is, you know, is it a man? Is it a woman? Does she talk fast? You know what I mean? What language is she speaking in? I need to know, you know, because I just wonder, do we ask these questions? You know what I mean? And I'm prepared to be that religion. Yeah.
As a touch of religion, that's one of the big ones that they use to kind of force persons conforming to a certain ideology and not opening themselves up to other perspectives. And I tell you, you know, you talk about Jamaica's culture and so on with that Christian background. If you control the belief system of a people, I mean, a belief, you know, is that series of thoughts that you've repeated and you've packaged and you've told yourself you're not going to veer from that core position. And your rest of your value system is going to emanate from it. And from your value system, your behaviors are going to come out from it. So if anybody who has control of that belief system, there's a saying that the greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Right?
Yes.
And you now have a religion where, and I'm not saying Christianity is necessarily bad. What I'm saying is the way it's presented to our nation.
Yes.
Where Jesus is white, disciples are white. You know, if you go to every primary school in Jamaica right now, and you give every kid a paper and a pencil, and you say to them, do me a favor, draw God, draw 2 angels, and draw 2 saints. And you give them 15 minutes and collect back the paper. Tell me, what are you going to see on it? I mean, I promise you won't find any of these kids drawing people that look like them. There's going to be people that look like our former colonialists.
Yes.
And so when you start out with the belief system of a people, to perceive that what is holy, what is grandeur, what is majestic, what is pure, what is all powerful, are associated with features that look like another race and not your race.
Yes.
You can see where the value system of themselves and each other starts to wane by nature of that belief system embedded in them.
You know,
a man that looks. Sorry.
No, it's funny. It's funny you say that in the relation to religion, but you could even argue something similar with politics. Now, all right, I can explain it this way. In, say, a country like the USA, a certain group of people are supposed or expected to vote a certain way, which is ridiculous because we're not all the same. And you could say the same about Jamaica. I'm not going to say across the board, but you could say that one party identifies with the poor and the other party identifies with the elites. And people start just naturally putting themselves in these buckets and
buckets,
voting
yeah,
accordingly, without
yeah,
even looking at the manifesto and saying, hey, what suits me?
right,
Wow.
right. I mean, the right way to for it to happen, is for us to see each human body as a vehicle transporting the person. And just as I couldn't care less what color car you drive versus what color car I drive. Can you imagine how ridiculous it would be if I pull up in a white car and you pull up in a black car and I get better treatment because I pulled up in a white car? It's similar. I mean, the body is just a vehicle transporting the person. So you should not judge based on the physical features of the person. You should judge based on the content of their characters. And many great leaders have spoke to that being the ultimate approach that we should have to each other and to as humans on this planet. So the opportunity we have in a country like Jamaica is where some of the artificial barriers that we've had, some of the biases, prejudices, the obstacles that are pretty much mental. Because if we were to have that viewpoint of each of us wanting the same things, the Maslow's hierarchy of need has it outlined: food, clothing, shelter, healthcare. Above that, you have self-esteem, respect. Above that, you have self-actualization. We're all after those same things. And if we recognize that when we collaborate, we can build those things for everybody. We can bake a pie that's big enough that everybody's slice is more than they can consume. They have to start having food fights because it's too much. I think that's the day that we will transform this nation.
But Carey, you having this open look to the situation, how does your fellow man see through the same optics as you do?
Well, I think the good news is that we have. You had started out by saying it in this interview about the information age that we're living in, and just how the access to information that we have is just unprecedented. I mean, picture us back in high school or whatever, needing some information. How we had to go to the library and comb through pages and pages of books to try and get the answer to what we're just trying to find out. Now you don't even have to type it in. You can just talk to your phone.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
you can
yes.
get the answers to these things. So what it means, therefore, is that the opportunity to, if we're saying it's a lot of mental blocks and obstacles and biases, and it's information that will help to change that. Things that you thought were real, all of a sudden you start second guessing. In fact, even the Trump era has created some of that as well too. I mean, I remember growing up and watching Fox and watching CNN, and I wouldn't have said there was a difference. I would have just trusted the news that they had, and now it's abundantly clear that they are just showcasing perspectives as
Yep.
opposed to showcasing the truth that's out there.
And lying to
And
us
I
for
think
ages.
exactly, and I think that has kind of opened everybody's eyes. Santa Claus, cowboy movies. I mean, I remember as a child being on the side of cowboys, wanting a cowboy hat and so on, because when you look at it now, it was a really glorified genocide happening. So, and the real people of the land were defending their lands.
Yep.
So,
Did you know I only found out recently that the CIA has a budget for films. So Black Hawk Down, all of those Independence Day, all of those movies, CIA. Did not know that at all. Google it when we're done. I was shocked. So
that they
all of
didn't know what?
these,
Sorry.
I did not know that they had a budget.
Oh,
Yes,
for
the
films.
CIA for films.
It
So
makes sense.
their
Again,
influence.
the
Yeah.
greatest weapon is the minds of the oppressed. So, I mean, you think about it. You your perception of a lot of what goes on in the world is based on what you've experienced over time, and a lot of it is in the movies and so on. It's documentaries, it's in books and so on. And so the person who controls those uh, pieces of information that are going into your mind, especially at that developmental age. Christopher Columbus discovered Jamaica, really, or he did discover a place when you come and people are there already. Not only that, the people saved you and fed you and nursed you back to health and so on, and in return you kill them off and rape them and so on. And then you call you call us savages.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm saying is when you then have the control the narrative, you can then control the mindset and the belief systems. And once you have that, people's behaviors will conform to that belief and value system that you have. So all we need to do for Jamaica is to provide copious amounts of information of the potential and the opportunity that we have, especially when we collaborate. And thankfully, social media now has democratized the information channels that go into the minds of our people. Several years ago, it was only traditional media. Today, you get information all over the place. I mean, look at what we're doing here. It's information from us that will get a lot of persons learning about the opportunities that we have, and that can be manifested in a country like Jamaica transforming to a developed nation.
All right. Hey, how can Jamaica's public and private sector collaborate to create more opportunities for skill development and empowerment, especially with the youth?
Well, I think the greatest thing we can do as a country is to make our institutions be facilitators rather than regulators. Make them be uplifting institutions rather than restricting institutions. And I'll give a background why I said that. We did not develop like an average country, where the people of the country started out in an arable farming to survive. Then they went into an industrial revolution. Then they went into a technological revolution and so on. That's not the average, because in those countries they had a developmental approach to nation building. In our country, we had the ravages of colonialism and slavery and so on. And in Jamaica, we had more slaves in our population than we had slave masters in our population. The slave masters were the minority. So here you have a country rich in resources, but the people of the country, the inhabitants of the country, the population of the country at that time, there wasn't a desire for the development of that nation. There was a desire to an extractive approach. The desire was to make sure the minority wealthy remained on top and the majority were to be controlled and held in their place. And so there's a saying in Jamaica, if you play by the rules, you get shafted. Meaning if you join every line, wait every turn, fill out every form, if you do the right things, principled, call the switchboard to get information on how to get a building permit, and then follow the process of application to get your building permit, and then that. Everybody in Jamaica know you really don't reach anywhere. All right, let's put it this way. You get through faster if you go around the system. At best, if you're still principled, is to use a network. Who is the general man, who's the CEO over there, give me a call and, butter him up and, it's, a friend who know him and a friend of a friend and blah, 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 blah. And you try and go around the system, or at least expedite within the system to try and make it in Jamaica. Whereas in developed countries, their systems are designed to facilitate, to lift you up, to make it easy. You get through faster when you play by the rules in those countries. And to me, there's no power as strong as the human desire. But if we have our institutions in the way of that desire, catching it, making it difficult, sending them, you come to the office with a passport picture of you in that passport picture. With you have the picture and you are there with your face at that government office, and they say, no, you have to go back and get a JP to sign and stamp and say it's you. Is that a system designed to facilitate and help you up faster, make you get through as fast as possible?
Do you think this is deliberate?
It was deliberate, but the problem I'm having is it was deliberate then because in those days, who were the JPs? Who were the minority? So they wanted to keep the resources amongst that clique. And the majority out there weren't based on racism, based on, I don't know, whatever the reasons, they didn't believe that developing those outstanding gems called humans, making them add value to this nation in tremendous ways, upskilling them and so on, would create a developed nation by now. No, it was designed to be keeping them from benefiting from the opportunities, so that the opportunities will be restricted to the minority few. But today, there's no British person catching us because we have Jamaicans filling all the positions: Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, Parliament, JDF, police, JCF, all the police, all the soldiers, all the teachers, all the doctors, we're all Jamaican. The problem is we're still glorified stewards of that system that was designed to control and restrict. Remind of a good example is the very US of A where you are. The majority of their population in colonialism were Europeans. The slaves were minorities. In fact, they still call black people in the US minorities to this day. So when they got their independence from Britain, they then made the institutions for the majority of the population to uplift them, to facilitate them, the pursuit of happiness, liberty for all, freedom, freedom, freedom. Because applying that to the majority of the population, you would have everybody committed, dedicated, giving their all, investing in decades, in years of study, knowing that, having the confidence that when they become these experts, specialized experts, and then they go into the working field, they will be compensated. The system is there facilitating them.
Carey.
And so they were all rising as a result. Whereas they then discriminated against the blacks now. I'm talking white America there. The population were white, and so they had institutions uplifting the population. They then discriminated against the blacks because they were the minority. So they just, the blacks couldn't drink at the water fountain, couldn't even walk on some of the streets and that kind of thing. And so when they had their their civil rights, all that happened was the blacks were able to join the system that was uplifting in general if you played by the rules. And so they rose and rose and rose. And, in general, you had subtle discrimination, but systematic. The systems were designed to facilitate. You go to get your driver's license in the US or UK or wherever, you drive for it legitimately. You do the right thing to get it. And so you don't have to. Whereas in Jamaica, you can be a great driver. It's not that you get through, then, they cut you deliberately in order to try and force you through to the corrupt system because
everybody get piece of fish head out of that one.
and so it frustrates the principled. It doesn't encourage humans investing in becoming value adders. Because if you become a great value adder and the system rewards you, it's called merit, a merit-based reward system, then everybody just knows because you want the big house on the hill and the 2 cars and so on. All you have to do is add more value and based on your merit, you would get rewarded. But when you have a system now where no matter you could be the greatest and most the best specialist in a field and so on, but if you don't have the right connections and if you hardly reach anywhere. So it is in fact there's research on that. There's a there's a sorry let me there's the Nobel Peace Prize winners last year were in the economy. Try to hang this up. Hold on. The Nobel Peace Prize winners um, in economics last year, they wrote a book, Why Nations Fail. And they speak to not the correlation, but the causation of when you have good institutions, it creates wealthy nations. Institutions that reward based on merit, institutions that make humans conform to the rules of the nation, knowing that when you conform, you rise. When you conform, you get your desires fulfilled. You get the quality of life that you aspire to by conforming to the rules. And that's the fix we need in Jamaica.
Carey, listening to you and knowing Jamaica as I know it, I would think that someone like you would be really frustrated living in Jamaica. But because of the way the systems are. But I'll say all of this. Your peers and a lot of your friends are around about 60 years old. There's a lot of them in the diaspora now. Lots of them. Knees aching, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They just need some sunshine. They just want to come home. They just want to make an appointment to see the bank manager and spend half an hour, like it is all around the world, to open a bank account. Not half a day. Not to line up to use an ATM. You know what I mean? They just want to come home. Why is it so difficult for Jamaica to grab these people's purses and money and make them come home? Why is it so difficult?
Well, in the difficulty, it presents opportunity. Most entrepreneurs and innovators will tell you, listen, if the bigger the problem that you have, is the greater the opportunity that you have to provide that solution, and the more money you'll make from providing the solution. So I believe that the technology that's becoming rampant today and the leverage that this technology is giving us, and I'm watching all these artificial barriers that have been in the way of the average Jamaican making progress. I'm seeing them collapsing almost daily because they are being replaced by digital solutions that eliminate all this nonsense. So you mentioned the ATMs and so on. You know how much progress Jamaica has made because you can now have online banking. You can stay from the comfort of your office or your home, and you are paying a payroll, transferring money to somebody on a construction site in your mother's hometown in the countryside. You can turn on a smart camera and watch what they're doing. You can, so in my head, it's just a matter of time, because as you have these innovative companies coming on board, and a lot of the younger generation are really investing in those areas. I'm watching traditional establishments that have been around for 100 years, and I'm now watching some new companies coming up and them TikToking up all their products and services and so on, and outpacing them and doing better than these long-standing companies. So there's a transformation that's happening. And for a country like Jamaica, that again has been just so abundant in potential, but have not been firing on all cylinders because of the biases and the mental blockages and so on that I mentioned earlier. Now is the time. I'm very optimistic that in my lifetime we will see a transformation to a developed status here in Jamaica.
Why does my good friend, I think he's nearly 80, leave White House to go to United States of America for a medical checkup? Why does that? Why is that even a choice?
Well, think about it. Medicine and health is not static. It's there are innovations, there's new equipment, there's new processes, surgery, there's cutting edge studies and results and remedies and so on that requires investments and wealthy countries to pour money into that continuous advancement. Because if you look back at Jamaica's health offerings, for instance, and you compare it to the medieval times, Jamaica would look extremely modern. You follow? But it's all relative. It's all what we provide here compared to what you can then get in Mount Sinai Hospital in the US or whatever is they are advancing further. So if someone has the capacity and has the opportunity to go to where it's the best, then you can see where they're going. No, I'm not for one suggesting that where we are in Jamaica is adequate. But there are significant investments being made in our infrastructure. The Cornwall Regional, the Adolescent Hospital in Montego Bay, the Spanish Town Hospital is getting a new wing, the UWI Hospital is getting a new wing, and so on. So there are advancements being made here, not at the pace of the first world countries. Yeah, I agree. Still, my feeling and recommendation to us as many Jamaicans who may be considering living here is that my approach to medicine and health and so on is that if the more you invest on the preventive side, when you go for nice long walks and in nature and you eat organic foods and healthy and so on, then it's the less you will need of the back end remedial medicine.
So if you're coming
But it's
home,
great to
make
have
sure
it.
you're healthy.
What I'm just saying, there's a trade-off. You live in a cold country where you don't get sunshine for months on end and so on, no vitamin D, and you versus health is your body is a machine that's designed to heal you, and it's designed to every single day new cells are being made and old cells are dying out and so on. In fact, scientists say that within 4 years, if I take a picture of you now, Roger, within 4 years, every single cell on that body would have been replaced from the food that you're eating, that you've ate today and eating will continue to eat. So what it means is that you can, when you have a persistent problem, it's because you are repeating the the processing of your food into cells. That process create maintaining that problem. So how and that problem comes from three things. One is diet. So if you're not giving it the actual nutrients to make the cells in the proper way, then it's you're making it difficult for your body. Two is exercise to ensure that the circulation, the movement, the mix of the oxygen, the mix of the food that you digest with the blood in the bloodstream, all that. And the third one is your mindset, because your body's first and most important job is to keep you alive. And so it constantly checks your status and adjusts your body via the hormones inside of you to whatever is going on inside your mind. So if somebody come behind you and scare you, boo, right? Your body doesn't make an assessment and say, "Oh, it's just your friend running a joke." Your body sees your mind that you're scared and says to your hormones secrete adrenaline and secrete, a couple cortisone and a couple things to get your body fit and ready to fight or flight and that kind of thing. Now, most persons don't recognize that. And so they don't see the value in keeping that mind, which is giving instructions to. I mean, if I talk to you right now about lime or lime juice, for instance, and ask you to imagine sucking on a very sour lime, very juicy but very sour lime. In fact, I'm going to make a sprinkle some salt on it, and then suck again, and you taste the salt grains in your mouth, and it's sour lime, and so on. So with that example, you're likely having more water in your mouth from
Salivating.
just salivating, right? Now, your conscious mind knows that I am just telling a story. So I don't see any real lime. There's no lime around. But you still created that image of lime juice in your mind, and your body is responding to the image in your mind, not to the reality of what's going on. And so it instructed your salivary glands to secrete some saliva just now. Fairly innocent. After a while, I'm gonna keep talking, it's gonna go away and we'll get back to normalcy. But then if you are having a habit, or imagine if you were thinking lime juice every day and so on, then that salivary gland, eventually too much of it will create a dis-ease. It will be too much, and then saliva on your mouth all the time. Next thing you know, your tongue starts. But imagine that multiplied now by all the hormones inside your system, all your saliva, all the glands, endocrine glands, exocrine glands, and so on, listening to your mind. And so when you think you're just watching CNN or just watching all the horrible things going on our planet, and you're just lamenting every day, talking about all the problems and waking up on point, you are not realizing that you are just instructing your body all the time that you are in a high stress position, and your body say, okay, what stress translates to, what's the formula? If it's stress, that means they're going to secrete some cortisone and secrete some this, and next thing you know, your whole body is now responding to this perpetual state of these hormones that are only meant to get you out of a problem and get you back at ease. So that's why if everybody recommends, including medical doctors, including wellness people, everybody just recommending, listen, walk in nature, meditate, be great, have a gratitude list. All these things that really what it's doing is placing your mind back into a position of ease to allow all the cocktail mix of hormones in your body to get back into the healthiest state that it can get.
Carey, my last question for you is, if they build an international airport in Little London, what incentive is there to fix the roads from, say, Montego Bay to Negril?
All right, well, one of that question assumes that there is limited resources.
Oh,
Meaning,
no?
why can't we build the airport and fix the highways in fact, build a new highway, have a bridge across Lucy Harbor? Why can't we have all of that as a developed country would have? And that's our approach to these things. Now, tourism being our number one industry and airports being a major plant, a major node in the distribution channel of the tourism sector, you can see why there is tremendous value in expanding on that node, opening up that new distribution channel that can bring hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people added to the channels that we have now. I mean, as we have more and more wealthy travelers, because that's the thing, when persons start earning more and more wealth, then the limiting factor becomes time, not money. And so their decisions, therefore, are made a lot based on efficiencies. If they want to go on holiday, how fast can they be on the beach? And so we have to consider that there's a whole sector of travelers who, when they hear that you have to fly into Montego Bay and then take a 2 hour 2-hour journey to Negril if you're lucky. That's not a luxury. That's a cost to them that they can do better by flying into a country that can get them on the beach in a shorter time. We also believe that we have to think of Jamaica as not just this tiny island. I mean, Cayman has a beach, has an airport, and Cayman can fit into Westmoreland about 6 times.
Wow.
Not Jamaica, Westmoreland, right?
Wow.
Barbados can fit into Westmoreland about 3 times, and Barbados has an international airport. So and Jamaica is the third largest English-speaking country in the Americas. Number one is US, number two is Canada, number three is Jamaica. A distant three, but it's Jamaica number three. 70% of the world's trade is in English. And why I'm saying that, and we're in the Northern Caribbean, a short haul trip from the US and Canada. So the potential that we have with all our parishes, with all of Jamaica being flooded with tourism dollars, if we provide the access, if we get it right, if we make sure it's peaceful, make sure there's more propensity for them having a great time rather than any risk of them being harassed or hurt or while they're here, is an easy formula, a quick and easy formula for us to all make money. And that's why I really believe we can do it in one lifetime.
Okay.
Just like we did with Tavern, for instance, the example I gave with Tavern in Pavine, it's something that we can just multiply out right across 14 parishes, the length and breadth of Jamaica.
Hey, as sharp as you're dressed, have you ever thought about a bush jacket like you used to wear in the late 70s? Early 80s? Do you remember those days? Something that
Really, but
something that was Jamaican, you know? Wow.
right.
Hey, Carey, I'm really glad that you had this chat with me. And whenever these topics come up, I'm gonna invite you on. I still want to know from you what we can do to be doers, because I hear this a lot from you, doers. Instead of pointing the finger, I want to be on the doers side. So tell me, what does it take for us to have that shift in the brain to become a doer and not one to just criticize all the time?
So it's simple. It's just so when you first thing you can do is just think of life and any situation in life being on a stick. So on one end you have the extreme of the situation, on the other end you have the other extreme. So let's take poverty. On one end you have abject poverty, on the other end of that stick you have phenomenal wealth. Let's take crime. On one end you have the highest anarchy and murders going on. On the other end you have a very peaceful nation. And you can go with almost every aspect of the life experience and think of it as a stick. So whenever one then finds themselves with a situation that they don't like, the best thing that I'd recommend is to assess where you are on that stick and then to see how you can move up that stick. So if you have, kids fighting in schools, you look right away and you say, okay, what is the outcome that you want? What's on the other end of the stick? And you say, boy, peaceful, cooperative schools where the children are collaborative and respectful of each other and value each other and so on. And right then you start seeing where your thoughts are going towards. So how can we make solutions in that direction? How can we put in some guidance counselors? How can we incentivize pro-social behaviors? How can we provide, days where they watch documentaries on things that can make them value themselves more? Okay, you start moving in that direction versus lamenting about the details of which fight and this and that, and how you hear about this and every day, and start blaming people all over the place and that kind of thing. So in my head, that's the doing. If you don't like how a school administration is functioning, can you lend your support? Join a committee, join the board, join a subcommittee of the board to help to fix, to help move them down the path on the other end of the stick, rather than believe that you are in a better position. You are helping by being the one to point out how bad it can be, and then fret about how worse it can get, and then blaming everybody who is trying. So I think that's a small examples of how you can become a duo. I mean, in a lot of chat groups, sometimes it's actually just doing the research. So you're in the chat group, you just go to another window, you chat GPT or what is a solution for that? You paste it in the group, they start discussing it. I mean, think about the classroom that we're building at Manning's, for instance. That is from where I was asked to sit on the board, the Manning's board, and I joined the Manning's board. And then they put me on the academic development committee to chair that. And I had a couple of meetings of the academic development committee, and one of the obstacles that they had was the classroom sizes. Everybody bunched up in classrooms, so the teachers didn't have the ability to reach out to the slower students and so on to try and keep everybody on the same pace or moving at pace. As it came up to my reunion, they asked me to chair that reunion as well, the class of '84. And when we discussed the activities that we'll have there, the usual beach picnic, the gala, the river thing and so on, we said, okay, we wanted to kind of not just go back and have a good time and so on, recognizing that Manning's had all these challenges, but to see what we can do to leave a lasting legacy. And so when I mentioned that, hey, one of the things that they said would make a massive impact is if they got more classroom space, that was when we were bold enough to say, well, if that's what the school is saying will have the greatest impact, let's do it. And we assessed we were saying, listen, it's 40 years since we left Manning's. And, and we had a chat group by then of 105 persons in the class of '84 chat group. And we said, surely if we can ask each person to contribute $1,000 to this classroom, meaning for the 40 years that you've left, it represents $25 per year.
What currency are we talking about?
US.
Just had to make sure, we all understood. $1,000, okay.
But that represented $25 per year. When you break it down like that, you recognize that, hey, for all that Manning's gave to us, that is the least you can do. And we kind of designed it so that it would have our names on the building for the contribution. So, most persons who have their names at the schools are usually persons who have done well enough to be able to build a whole classroom themselves and name it after themselves and their family names, kind of thing. Ashenheim at JC and, those kind of things, and Victor Lowe at Manning's and so on. But this was like the next best opportunity that we had to get all our names up on a building, entrenched and immortalized by a relatively smaller contribution, but with a collaborative effort. In fact, the fun and the goodwill that we've had from this project, just rallying everybody and getting everybody to contribute and watching the building going up, and it's one of those priceless experiences. That's the kind of thing that money can't buy, if you know what I mean.
Rewarding, very rewarding.
Rewarding experience, yeah. So
it's nice.
But again, it's that approach of, we could sit back and just cost government and cost Ministry of Education and cost a whole bunch of people doing, but instead we're on the side of seeing how we can move down that stick to getting the results that we're after.
Cool. Hey, Carey, I'm really grateful for your time. Anytime I got some questions. I've got some questions about crime and violence, but all for another day. When I get them together, I'll have you on. All right. So thanks for spending the time with me.
My pleasure. Thank you, Roger.
Respect, man.